What I want to do is I want to dive in, but in a specific way, because you said something in one of our previous conversations that behavior is on equal par with performance. What did you mean by that? And what's the significance of that?
So most companies just look at primarily one dimension. Now, a lot of companies will look at two dimensions. They'll look at performance and then they might look at competency. How well is that person learning? How are they building their competencies to get to the next level? But very few companies add what I call the third pillar, or in some companies, the second pillar, depending on how they're doing it. But for me, it's the third pillar. I call it the three C's. So it's culture, competency, and your contribution to the organization, which is the performance. And if you put all three of them on equal par, what you end up with is a learning organization that has the right behaviors to have the right relationships so that there's nothing that really impedes on that company's ability to grow. Because if you have performance at all costs, what you do is you create a competitive environment. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen this in many companies where eventually the conversation centers around we are our own worst competitor and we're competing with ourselves more than we are with our competitors in the outside world. Well, that usually happens when companies are not measuring behavior and they're not putting a priority on behavior. So that's the key that I have found, that when you introduce the concept of behavior and holding people equally accountable for the behaviors that they demonstrate with their performance and their continuous learning, that's when the company has a true transformation.
Oh, so there's actually accountability as a part of your process in modifying behaviors.
Absolutely. So at Sprint Ray, we actually have defined our key behaviors. And instead of having core values, we have key behaviors. We have the behaviors that we expect people to demonstrate. And we've defined them. We've defined boundaries around them. We call them the do's and don'ts of each behavior. And then people are measured ongoingly. The ultimate measure happens with their annual assessment, which actually we moved away from an annual assessment process recently to having what we call quarterly conversations. And so the sum total of your 4 quarters of conversation equals your annual assessment. So it's based on those 4 discussions. And those 4 discussions center around the behaviors, your competency growth and setting goals around that, and your contribution to the organization. And here I'll show you an example because every one of our employees has this on their desk. So basically, they have the behaviors that they display. And then on the other side is our definition of our culture. And unlike most companies that will pay a PR firm a lot of money to develop the wording for their core values and their culture statement, we do it a little differently with the process that I put in place with companies. We actually have the employees from the ground up, everyone from the mailroom clerk to the CEO, working together to define the culture, what's in, what's out, and working together to define the behaviors, those few key behaviors that if everyone demonstrates them, you will be happy to get up and go to work every week. Or as Dr. Ralph Schrader, who was the CEO at Booz Allen, used to say, you'll be happier to keep Booz Allen on your business card rather than putting it on your resume.